Hey guys, Pastor Alex here. I just want to take a second and from the bottom of my heart say thank you so much for tuning in to what's happening here at Overflow Church. Hope the message today pushes you, blesses you, and encourages you. Enjoy.
Now, I mentioned a second ago that Jesse is becoming, and actually is, at this point, our Next Step director. But Jesse is a lot more than just the Next Step director at Overflow Church. Jesse is, if you follow him on social media, you already know this to be true. Jesse is a phenomenal dad. I mean, just I look at Jesse and I'm taking notes already. I'm like, I gotta be like this guy whenever I'm a dad. So he's a phenomenal dad. He's obviously a wonderful counselor, in which that's how we describe God. That's really funny that he's our wonderful counselor. But Jesse is a wonderful counselor. He's the co-host of a pretty cool morning show. If you guys have ever heard of The Warm Up, he's a part of that, pretty big part of that. He's an incredible drummer if you've seen him. But not only is he all of that, Jesse Turner is bringing the word this morning. So would you guys stand up on your feet and make welcome Mr. Jesse Turner.
Wow. Let me tell you, I had just enough time to wipe my eyes so you didn't see me cry, because I wasn't expecting to see my coworkers this morning or people say nice things. And that's what's the great thing about the honor series, is that like sometimes I struggle with honoring other people, and it's not because they don't deserve it. I just think to myself, well, they wouldn't really notice if I said anything anyway. Like if I said anything bad or good, like that's just an own self-reflection. So when people do that and you realize the impact it makes on you, you're like, oh, wow, I want everyone to have this feeling. Like, wow, like everyone deserves honor. So thank you guys for coming this morning, because I know the time change is hard. You made the easy choice. You were like, I'm going to the 11, absolutely. Because the 11's really the 10 and the 9's really the 8. I'm not going to an 8 o'clock. I get it. I wouldn't have been here either. Totally makes sense. You guys are the smart crowd. And I don't take this part for granted. As Pastor Alex said, you can see my ugly mug in so many places in this church. It's like I don't know how to say no. I mean, between the drumming, I mean, this is probably where I started. I've been drumming with Overflow Church since we were in a Cracker Jack box building, slapping a wooden box. Like that's where we started. And so having all this is just a lot of fun now. I was the guest experience director for a time. And that was one of my favorite things, because not only did I love being the guest experience director, but I actually got to train up like my replacement and then walk away from it and be proud that that team is still like succeeding and doing far better things than what they did when I was with them. And that is something that like you can be bitter about, is bringing up your own replacement. But that's something that we very much encourage here. That's something we talk about at Next Step, which is just a shameless plug. Again, I won't go into the whole spiel because Pastor Alex covered it for me. But Next Step is next weekend. And this is the time that we get to say why we do what we do. Like when we're doing it, when we're here on Sundays, all the contributors together, we don't get a lot of chances to really say why we're doing this, like why this is our passion, why Christ has called us to do this, why we're doing this. Like we don't always have the time to do that. In fact, some of the most important people here, the people that do the most behind the scenes, you may never get to talk to, because they are running 1,000 miles an hour in the background just to try to make sure that we're functioning correctly. And you can learn more about that next week at Next Step. You can be a part of that. You can find out who we are, who you are, and how you can make an impact, not only on just our community, but like in the world. I mean, it's worldwide impact going on. So just a little shameless plug, that's going on. I'm on the platform today as a guest speaker, so I won't say which of these things, because you see me all over the place. I won't say which one is my favorite, but this may not be my favorite, but this is the one that I definitely take the most seriously. You hear people say, you heard people say like, funny, sense of humor, jokester, and there'll be some jokes, very obviously. I can't even speak probably without throwing a joke in every fifth sentence. It's just probably not even possible. But this is serious. This is something I take very seriously, and this is a privilege that I have, that I don't have to do this every week. I am not Pastor Alex. I don't envy you at all that I have to gather something to say every Sunday. No. I get to bat 1,000 because I get to wait until I have something that's really important, a lesson that I've learned that I get to then just tell you about. So while this is only the 4th or 5th time that I've actually gave a sermon, I will say this won't be my most eloquent. I'll have to look at my notes. You'll have to forgive me. But this topic though that I'm talking about, it is the most important thing that I've probably ever talked about. It's that important to me. I feel like it's that important to Jesus. In fact, he's probably going to talk about it in the sermon somewhere. So please, bear with me through the mistakes, through the jokes, because this is super serious. Okay, let's get some church in it. Let's bring God into it, okay? John 13, 34 through 35. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you are also to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. So first thing right off the bat, is Jesus brings that up 3 times. Just in a couple sentences, he's like, hey, if you have love for one another, you need to love one another. Hey, did I mention loving one another? Did you make sure you heard that? Did we hear that part too? Every parent in the room just related to Jesus right now, because it's hey, I'm gonna be in the kitchen cooking, so the stove's gonna be hot. Now listen, I don't think you heard me. The stove's gonna be hot because I'm in the kitchen. So if you were in the kitchen, the stove's gonna be what? Hot. Yes, because I'm cooking. 3 times he hammers that in. He says, they'll know you are my disciples if you have love for one another. So if you're a note taker today, if you've got your notebook out, you're yes, I'm totally doing it. You can write at the top of your little notebook. The title for today is They'll Know. They will know. I did an apostrophe LL though. That's just me, that's preference. You do you, okay? But let's put some context on this, because this is right before Passover, okay? This is right before Passover. This is an important Passover because this is Jesus' last Passover. This is it. He is making sure, he is getting in the parting wisdom now. He is washing the disciples' feet, showing them what servitude really looks like. He's letting them know, hey, I'm not here to rule. I'm not here to take over. I'm not here to be served. I'm here to serve. Okay, he's passing on the lessons. These are super important things he's passing on. He's predicting Peter's denial. Peter's like, no, I'll never do that. And Jesus is like, well, you don't know what's coming. Where I'm going, you can't follow. This is all gonna be, it's all gonna go down really soon. You don't even know what you're talking about. And this is another thing he says before this Passover that's so important. So that's just some context on what's going on in this time period. He's saying, if you have love for one another, because you got to understand, as a Big C church, when I say Big C church, I don't mean Overflow Church. I don't mean Carroll County churches. I'm talking everybody churches. This is the Big C church stance. Everybody churches. We don't always act this out, okay? We're pretty good at finding somebody, some subset of people, some group that we can exclude grace from. We're really good at that. It's all subconscious. We can just be well, at least I'm not them, or at least I don't struggle with that, or at least it's at least I'm not doing that. And it's something, they're not as holy as thou. And I know that sounds ridiculous because we don't say that in our head. It's not something that you think out loud in your head, that you look at somebody and go, I'm better than that person. Because honestly, I don't have the self-esteem to really put that in my brain to be I'm better than that person. It's not something we say in our head. It's just something we live in our head. It's something that we live out through our actions of it. That we do that look down approach of I don't struggle with the same thing that you do. So you got to hear my breath because I upgraded this time. I have the boy band mic. JT's using a JT mic. So you know what I'm saying. So 3 different times he says this to make sure that he knows, that we know that he didn't accidentally misspeak. There's no mistranslating this, okay? Now that we've brought Jesus into it, I wanna bring something else into it, because I get to be up here and I get to hold the microphone, and they didn't tell me they didn't tell me I couldn't include this, so I just wanted to talk about one of my favorite little indie film franchises. It's just a tiny little thing. Has anybody heard of Star Wars? Have you ever clap if you've heard Star Wars? That's good. Hey, the booing, no, I need that, okay, because that's good. Because who I'm interested in is really not who likes Star Wars or has seen Star Wars, okay? And I mean this with no judgment, because some people assume when I ask if they've seen Star Wars, that if they tell me no, I'm gonna belittle them or think less of them. Listen, I understand what I'm asking you about. This is a fairy tale about space wizards who have laser swords. That's a tough sell. Okay, that's a tough sell. So what I want to know is in the crowd right now, who has not seen a Star Wars movie? Who has never seen one? Ma'am, you right there. No judgment. This is a no judgment zone. We'll have an altar call later. If you don't mind. If you don't mind, I have a couple questions for you. And yes, I brought my own toys. This is my own personal collection that I share with my children. It's not my children's, and this is only about half of them, so I had to make sure it wouldn't tip over. So if you don't mind, if you'll just answer me a couple questions, and tomorrow, when you go about your day, you'll be able to say, guess what I did yesterday? I won a Star Wars trivia contest at church, and they're not gonna believe you, but you'll be right, okay? All right, look, in a Star Wars movie, if I were to hold this right here, I'm gonna turn it on, and then I gotta do the flip, because otherwise I never had it, okay? If I've got this, am I a good guy or am I a bad guy? I'm asking her, she's never seen it. So I'm a bad guy, right? Would you have guessed that, or did they give you the answer? You would have guessed, okay, this isn't Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There's nothing at stake here, so it's fine, it's fine. You don't have to phone a friend. Okay, so bad guy, right? So no one else, no. Let her have it. Let her have this glory. Now, if I had one that looked like this, though, that was this color, am I a good guy or am I a bad guy? It just depends, right? Depends. But this one, you know pretty much from the onset, I'm probably not up to good, right? Probably got some bad intentions. And see, that's what's funny, and I'll nerd out with you just a little bit, just to give you enough context, just like how I give you context for the verse, I want to give you context for the movies, okay? This is not something that you have to take a test over, but look, in the movies, in Star Wars, in 1977, when the first one came out, we didn't really have a lot of background information. There wasn't books about it. Nerds weren't completely fighting each other over what was what. Here's what we knew. One guy had a red lightsaber and the other guy had a blue lightsaber. The blue lightsaber guy was good and the red lightsaber guy was bad. And even though it got super complicated over the years and people fight about it, and they've made some prequels and they've made some sequels, and some people hated one, some people loved them, the truth has always been a bad guy will hold a red lightsaber and a good guy will hold any other color lightsaber. Doesn't matter. Blue, green, purple because of Samuel L. Jackson, yellow, white, doesn't matter. If it's not red, he's a good guy. And if a good guy goes bad, he gets a red lightsaber suddenly from we don't know where. But if a bad guy goes good, he'll take this and he'll throw it in the water, a good waste of lightsaber, and he'll get a different color lightsaber, okay? We try to keep it very simple. We say, hey, red lightsaber, bad guy, okay? But here's the thing about the bad guys, okay? In Star Wars, it's just kind of like real life, okay? There's black and white as far as how we know this is a bad guy, but what they're saying, what the bad guys are really communicating to the good guys, to the world, to the universe, however, galaxy, it's not exactly lies. They're not really telling you a lie to twist something, to really make something up to get you to join their side. No, they're telling the truth. It's just how they're presenting the truth, right? The bad guys in Star Wars fuel themselves on hate and anger and jealousy, okay? It's super easy to fall into that trap, okay? Because hate and anger and jealousy are emotions we all have, but we have strength sometimes to put that fire out. So what the bad guys have done has just taken a fire of hate and then just fed more into it. Because if you think about it, more things are flammable than there are things that are not flammable, right? So that's why they say in Star Wars, it's easy to get seduced by the dark side because it's easy to give into. And I promise you, if I've lost you, I've come on back. This is as deep as I'll go with Star Wars, I promise. So it's easy to wield this, right? It's easy to use this and take the truth and just attack someone. This is almost a shortcut, right? And it's the same concept when we take God's love, when we take God's grace, when we take God's acceptance, we take God's friendship, all of that. It's so similar when we take those things and use it as a weapon to attack someone for what they're doing, right? It's the same thing. We're not lying. Like we're not twisting the truth, but we're not caring about them either. We're not loving one another. So like, don't feel terrible. Don't come and attack me after and go, how dare you say what I said was a red lightsaber. No, like pat yourself on the back. Is what you're attacking sin? Sure. Is what you're saying condemnable? Absolutely. But what are you holding while you say it? Because here's the thing. Non-Christians, when they hear from us, too often they will hear it from this. We're using the card that we use way too often, and that's shame, okay? When we use this and we just attack someone and we go, hey, like, I'm better than you, my Christian faith says what you're doing is wrong, okay? When we use this to attack someone, I'll turn it off. I know it's distracting. I really want to do this more, okay? When we use that to attack someone, there's no motivation to want what you have, okay? Like if you attack me with this red lightsaber, I don't want your red lightsaber. That's not something I envy. I can get that anywhere. I don't need that at your church. If you're attacking somebody because of their faith, because of what they're doing, because of how they're living their life, guess what? I got that at work. Don't have to wake up early on Sunday for that. I can get that at home. I don't need you to wake up early on Sunday for that. And these are just examples. What I'm saying is, when we use God's grace as a weapon to attack someone for how they're living, you're converting no one with this. You're helping no one with this. You're loving no one with this. It's only through this. This is grace, this is love, this is acceptance, this is strength. Because it takes strength, it takes practice, it takes a lot of will that's not ours to be able to give this. Because Jesse, I'd rather use this. This is much quicker to get what I want. I mean, it's true. And it may not get what I want exactly, and it may destroy a lot of bridges on the way, but this will get me there, right? So I went off on a little bit of a tangent. I don't have a time limit with you guys. We're gonna earn our Mexican bowl of chips today. They were flashing the timer at me at the 9. We ain't gotta worry about that today. So let me put up my toys for just a second. I'm afraid that's gonna tip over, but that's okay. If it does, you're welcome to a lightsaber, okay? But they'll know hate when they see it. They'll know grace when they see it. They'll know lack of forgiveness. They'll know shame. That's what we do best. That's what we've got. Because Jesus in his life radically included those that religious people looked down upon, okay? He radically included women and children, which were, especially in the historical time that Jesus existed, women and children were not recognized as like full people. I know that's something we can't relate to here because women are so respected now, but they were not respected then. They were not just really in a church. So you can imagine how disappointing it was for religious people when Jesus not only would talk to women in crowds, but he would heal them. And then they probably showed up to church the next week. And so they had to watch him come in church and go, hi, Karen. Yeah, so glad that Jesus healed you. I guess you'll be sitting on the front row that we allow women to sit on. He also talked and healed to disease and disabled people who back then weren't even allowed to live in the same town. It was like, hey, here's what you do. You got a disease. I see that's contagious. I want you to take 10,000 paces that way and then add 100 more. Don't ever come back here. We may send you supplies. We may just hope that you just don't come here. Okay, don't come here. Jesus not only talked to them and would have been considered unclean at that time, but he healed them. He talked to tax collectors. He talked to prostitutes. He included all of these people in who he addressed. And so for us, that's a little dated, okay? Like I don't want to say that the Bible's not relevant because it absolutely is. But if we read that at face value, what we're reading is, I don't like the tax collectors, but the IRS seems to have it down, I guess. We have to put this in a perspective of today's lens of women, children, disease, disabled, tax collectors, prostitutes. Who are those people today that we're able to exclude in our grace? Who we can exclude in our love? Who we can exclude and who we think Jesus would save, right? And I'm sure right now as we talk about that on Sunday morning, none of you struggle with that. No, you're here. It's the time change day and you're still at church. So I know I'm probably preaching to the choir. I'm probably just talking to the online crowd, right? Like I'm just talking to the people that will listen to this on a podcast later this week. I'm probably not talking to you guys. We wouldn't talk negatively about someone who just thinks differently than us or sins differently from us or votes differently from us, because we know that people just have different perspectives on what's best for us. And then it always cracks me up when people use Jesus in that conversation, because Jesus wouldn't vote for anybody that we have presented. Like Jesus wasn't interested in ruling Rome. I don't know if you guys know that. Like back in the day, the disciples really thought, they were like, Jesus, you're gonna take over the world. And he was like, I'm not really interested in taking over the world. I'm interested in taking over your heart. Woo, that's my cliche preacher thing. I just wanted one. Pastor, I just wanted one. He's more interested in blessing your heart than blessing your country. Oh, okay, that's two. That's all I got. I promise, no more. No more. My sister right now has secondhand embarrassment for me right now. So I won't do any more. I won't do any more. But it's bigger than that. What I'm telling you is when we use Jesus in a way to defend anything that's just our beliefs, it's not helping anybody. He's so much bigger than here. He's so much bigger than America. America wasn't even in the Bible. Like he's so much bigger than that. When he hears about our presidential elections, he probably laughs and goes, that was so 2000s. Because he's timeless. That was the joke there. It's fine. It's whatever. We'll get there. Thought the 9 o'clock was a tough crowd. And then here's, we don't struggle with that, but except here's the problem. We do struggle with that because I've seen the church on social media, the Big C church, not here. I've been the Big C church on social media. Like I'm not coming at you from a place that I'm better than you. We've all seen it. Most of us have been it. We as Christians have been putting that shame card to use. And when we use it on the internet, it's so much better because we don't have to say it in real life. We get to type it out to a stranger who we don't have to care if they ever know Jesus or not. Because here's what's sad, like they don't know when we shame people, they don't know anything about us unless they go research us, unless they look at our own profile. But just from face value, they don't know if we're saved. They don't know if they don't know about us. They don't know that we've been sent by God to love other people. They just know us. They just see what we have said and they see this, right? So if this is what we're presenting, if we're using Jesus to take down somebody that we barely even know or maybe haven't talked to in 10 years, but we see them post something on Facebook and we just decide, hey, I'll take that down a notch. I know a verse that can talk about that. Let me give you permission today, okay? Let me just help you out because I've had to do this to my own life. Like this is a rule that I've had my own self to stop myself from posting negative things or talking about negative things where I'm just emotional to it. If what you're using is this to get your point across, do me a favor and leave Jesus out of it, okay? Let that be yours. Take that on yourself. Say, hey, I want the hate. I want the anger. I want the jealousy. I want to harness this power. Don't throw Jesus' name on top of it, because then when I talk to somebody who doesn't know Jesus at all, who doesn't want any part of this, then they're telling me, but you know what? One of your people told me I was going to hell for that. I'm already starting below floor level as far as that conversation goes. That doesn't help me at all when I talk to them, because maybe I wasn't even bringing that up. Like maybe I was just talking with them to see how their day was going. And they're like, well, I saw that you go to that church and somebody told me I was going to hell. I was like, oh, good morning. Let me buy you a coffee just to, I guess, make amends. Like, I don't know. So listen, before you take out your swords and pitchforks on me and your red lightsabers, let me just make this clear once again. I'm not better than you on that. I don't have a moral high ground on this. That's a Star Wars joke. If you got it, you got it. It's fine. I don't have a high ground for you. I may be standing on this platform that's a little taller than you, but I'm right there with you. This is something I have had to call out in my own life to go, hey, you know what? How you handled that wasn't great. So I think we could just do ourselves a favor. We could all get on a nice level playing field. It's gonna worry me the whole time. So it's something I feel like we should just all say out loud, okay? So I'm gonna say it, and this is gonna be hard because sometimes this repeat back doesn't work because, a lot of you don't have rhythm, it's fine. So look, there's 3 words to this, And it's this. It goes, sin is sin. So I'm going to say it and you're going to repeat it back. Okay, sin is sin. Go. Sin is sin. Woo, that felt good. Let's try to get, y'all almost got it too. 11's here. All right, one more time. Sin is sin. It wasn't there as much. That's okay. That's okay. It was hard enough the first time. You got it off your chest, okay? That's good. That's good. Okay, listen. My sin is my sin, okay? And I know you're thinking, wow, you're just repeating yourself all over the place. Like, what are you even talking about? But listen though, no, there's a point. My sin is my sin. And when I see other people that deal with the things that I deal with, it's super easy for me to have grace and truth with that, okay? I look at you, and if you struggle with the same thing I do, I may not tell you that I struggle with the same thing that you do, but here's what I do. I point this and I go, hey, you know what? That's hard. That's a struggle. I get that. Like, I'm here for you. Like, I have compassion for you. I have empathy for you because I struggle with that too. I may not tell you that, but I get that. I struggle with that, okay? And your sin is your sin. And what you can do with your sin is the same thing. You can point some compassion on it, but you can also, if your sin's hidden, and remember, nothing that's hidden will stay hidden forever. But if your sin's hidden, you may even be harsher on that sin because it brings up your own guilt. It brings up your own thing. You're saying, how dare you say that out loud where people now know it's a thing? Ah! Right? You get a choice to decide how you treat others that sin the way that you do. But you know what's really fantastic? This is totally an earthly problem. This is not something, there's not a hierarchy of sins. There's not a chart of sins that Jesus pulls out when you talk to him and he goes, that's, if you had added one more sin, like it really would have put you over the edge. I really couldn't have helped you there. No. Sin is sin. Yes. And so if you had to bet me on a verse that I'd bring up next, I bet you'd win it. If you bet $1 million, it'd be the safest bet you ever bet. If you thought about Romans 3:23, or if you thought about what it was without even knowing where it was at, let's put it on the screen. Romans 3:23. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Remember that from a couple weeks ago. You're not that important. Like you're not exempt from this, okay? The verse didn't say, for all have sinned, except Mark got pretty close. Like, for all have sinned, but Alex did it the coolest. Like, like for all have sinned, but Jesse did a few that were really, he was just trying his best, so I'll forgive him and then overlook the rest of the sins. So no, it was very simple. It was saying, hey, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So what's really cool is if we were pulling out our shame card and throwing it at everybody, we could use this shame card and say, hey, for all have sinned, so I don't have to worry about my sin or your sin. We can all just keep on sinning. Like, there's really no point. That's why it's really important to read stuff together. It's really important to read like the verse before and the verse after things. Like, you want to really have some context on that. So verse 24. So for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Very next verse. And are justified by his grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. His grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus. Let me tell you something, since I have a microphone and you guys don't. I have a confession, if you will. I have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Felt pretty good to say, not gonna lie to you. And you may think that I'm joking. You may think, you just repeated the verse back. But no. There's healing in that. I confess things to God, and I know he'll forgive me no matter what. Like he's got me. He's like, the price of my sins have been paid for, right? But when I tell you guys about it, and usually I'd like to do this in a smaller format, maybe my small group, shout out small groups, or maybe like my trusted friend group around me. When I confess to you guys that I've sinned, I get healing for myself. I don't have to carry that sin around anymore. Like, I know God's forgiven me, but I'm still gonna bring it up to myself when I'm trying to go to bed at night and go, hey, remember that crappy thing you did? I do remember that crappy thing I did. Have you told anybody about it? Who said, hey, things, people move on? No, I haven't told anybody about it. I figured it'd just be way easier to be guilty about it for the rest of my life. It's not. So that felt really good to tell you guys about it. Because of that, I don't deserve your friendship. I don't deserve your grace. I don't deserve your acceptance. I don't deserve the nice things that my coworkers have said about me, because whether I've done something to you personally or not, I have fallen short. There was a perfect standard. I didn't make it, and that's okay. Because of that, I also don't deserve God's love or God's grace or God's acceptance or God's friendship, because there was a perfect standard. I didn't meet it. There was no way I could ever meet it. There was no way I could ever deserve it. No way I could ever earn it. Didn't meet it. So thank God that's not how it works, right? I said it loud because it's important. That's how preaching works. It's a gift. It's a gift. Think of it like an Amazon Prime 2-day shipment, except it's an instant one. Pretend you live in the city and the drone brought it to you instantly. It dropped it off on your doorstep, and whether you open the door or not, the gift is there. You didn't pay for it. You didn't order it. You couldn't have afforded it, but it's there, okay? But you know who that also applies to? And this will get you, because it got me. It applies to everyone and anyone. So every single person, it's been bought for. They can redeem it at any time that they're alive. It's available for them. People who are good, upstanding, moral citizens of their community, who are leaders and who donate to charities, it's for them. But it's also for addicts of any shape, form, or fashion. It's also for liars. It's also for thieves. It's for Democrats. It's for Republicans. It's for police. It's for protesters. It's for the LGBTQ community. If you can think of a person in your mind that when I said everyone, and you in your mind went, except, no! There was no limitations. There was no conditions. There was no sin that exempted them. And here's what'll really get you too. We talk about it today, it's Sunday. So we talk about Jesus' love, and you're like, you may turn over a new leaf today and you go, you know what? I do believe it. I do believe that anybody can have it. And you, I don't like you, here's your chance. Like, get Jesus' love, go. And they can say no. They can say, hey, you know what? I'm not ready for that. I don't want that. I don't want to live your life. I don't want to live this. I don't want to live by any kind of rules or anything like that. And what can really burn your bottom is that it's still available for them tomorrow. If they're still on the earth, if they're not dead, he's not done, it's still available. Oh, that annoyed me. I'm not going to lie to you, because I wanted to be rewarded for taking it first. I was like, I ordered this on Amazon before they even had 2-day delivery. I had to go to a youth conference for this before they were good music. I try to uphold rules. I try to do what I'm asked of. I'm not getting blessed like this person, and they suck. Why do they get to? But here's the thing. As I pray that, God's like, I don't remember telling you that. That's so weird. Where was the book of opinions you got that from, where I said I would bless your life better than the other person? And I was like, hey, I don't want to have this mental fight with myself, God. Why can't you just bless me like that person? It doesn't happen. We don't get to pick the blessings we get for a person. Sometimes the worst way that we can look at it is, well, they're blessed on earth, but they won't be blessed in heaven. My gift's eternal. My sacrifice is here. That's not the attitude to have either. That's still more of that holier than thou thing. Like, we don't get to pick what happens in our life. We don't get to pick who's blessed, who's not. We shouldn't pray for someone to go through a tough enough time, for a low enough bottom that they finally reach out to Jesus. We should just pray, hey, while things are going good, I hope that you hear this gift. Like, we shouldn't have a speaking part in someone else's journey, and that's why, guess what? We don't. We don't. We don't get to pick when your husband or wife accepts Christ. We don't get to pick when your cousin accepts Christ. We don't get to pick when your brother or sister accepts Christ. Like, we just have to keep praying and keep loving and keep going. That's all that we're called to do about it, okay? But I know that you're not gonna believe me unless I come up with some verses to back this up, because you're like, I know that the God of the Old Testament, who would strike down those who were not pure when they tried to go behind the veil, I know that there's no way that he now suddenly loves and accepts all as his children just because Jesus died and paid the price for it. Don't worry, I come to you like how I used to write papers for college, which is with way too many resources. So, woo! Let's look in the New Testament. After Jesus has entered the ring, what he tells us about how to deal with sinners, okay? Galatians 6:1-2. Brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you may also be tempted. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now that had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie. I really thought, I was like, man, I'm gonna get to strike somebody down with some verses out of context so that I can get my way, right? It's not what he gave us. Gently is a very important word that you can't ignore there, okay? So let's look again. Let's see what Paul's got to say a little later in Romans, okay? Romans 14, 1-4. I'll put both my lightsabers down. We'll figure out who gets to ignite one. As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes he may eat anything while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains, and let not the one who abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls. He will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make him stand. So this is great for those areas in your life. I'm not gonna call them gray areas because a lot of times it's spoken about, right? But in those areas where you're like, is it a sin for me? Like if you look back on our app, shout out for our app, we talk about the big three, things like tattoos, alcohol. Like if it's not something you struggle with, it may not be a sin for you, but it could be a sin for someone else because they struggle with it, okay? We just need to love people all the same, okay? Don't look at, because you don't struggle with alcohol, that someone who does is less than. Okay, that's not how we get to look. That's not how we get to do. God, it says right here, God has, I'm gonna use my lightsaber point. God has welcomed him, which can mean him or her, anybody. Like they're still welcomed no matter what, right? And not to quarrel over opinions is super important. Quarrel, not quarrel from Harry Potter. Quarrel is fight, okay? Not to fight over opinions. And we're super good at that with other Christians. You know what I mean? Like we'll sit people down and be like, I dare you to bring up my denomination because I'm about to strike you down. Like we're great at it, okay? It literally says right here, but not to quarrel over opinions, because he knew these are small issues. They are zoomed in so much that you're no earthly good if you're just that heavenly minded, okay? That's my other cliche preacher thing for today, okay? Super important. But it doesn't just stop with what you say. It's super important to start at the source, because our mind will say a lot of stuff that just doesn't make it through the filter, right? It'll start here, and you're like, oh, I can start something right now. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna hold that back. Jesus, control the tongue. Jesus, take the wheel, because I could ruin this person's life right now. Okay, we've got to start there. Because eventually the filter will just get so clogged full of poison, you can't help but let it out. Your face will tell the truth that your mouth does not at the moment, but then mouth will follow soon after, okay? We've got to start at the source because it controls it all. Our words are not our testimony, okay? What we say is just context for our testimony. What we're telling people can all be lies. Super easy. I can get up here and tell you the most beautiful crowd I've seen all day, but then I also did a sermon at the beach, and so it would be a lie. I'm just kidding, I didn't do a sermon at the beach. What I'm saying is though, it's easy to lie. It's easy to have this and just have it behind your back where nobody sees the color, okay? It's easy. Actions are our testimony, okay? Actions, our words are just context for our actions. That's why it has to start up here, because it controls it all. If it's in the mind, it's in the heart, it'll come out the mouth for sure. Now, Jesse, under this teaching, you're leaving something out, and I don't like it. Because before I had permission to strike down people that were less than me, and before I had permission to use verses to just tell people how wrong they were, and I don't appreciate that you're trying to tell me that I shouldn't. I mean, I don't disagree with you. We need to be able to take corrections, right? Like we need to be able to talk about sin. Sin is sin. My sin's my sin. Your sin is your sin. Everyone sins. Everyone's fallen short of the glory of God. So like we also can't just live and just turn a blind eye and just optimistically love either. No. You're right. We need something. So I'm really thankful that that's also included. That also is told how to deal with this, okay? Matthew 18, starting in 15, says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. And if they listen to you, you've won them over. But if they will not listen, take 2 or 3 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen, even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Now let me be clear on this part. Just because it says treat them like a pagan or tax collector doesn't mean that you get to then like strike them down and be like, they didn't listen to any of us, so now we don't have to like them. No. That just means to love them from afar. Because back then, the same as now, we don't live in a nice Christian bubble that we don't have to deal with people that don't believe the same way as we do, right? Like we still have to love everyone, even if they don't believe the same as we do. So that's what they're saying. They're saying, hey, like if you can't settle those differences, with these steps, you still have to love them just at arm's length. Right? But take it from the very top. Now that I explained the bottom, let's take it from the very top. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. Okay? Not comment on a Facebook post and let them know that they're messing up. Okay? Not dig through someone else's post and just pile on to them. Not talk about them behind their back. No. If you love them, if that's what your intentions are to call someone out for their sin, you go to them just between the two of you and you talk about it. That's already leaps and bounds better than what we were thinking of doing, right? Because that establishes 2 things. It is privacy and intimacy that lets that person know, I'm not here to put you on blast. I'm here to let you know I love you and I care about you, and this is concerning. Because what you're trying to help them understand is something that just really ate at me before I figured this out, is that when a non-Christian is confronted with Christian beliefs, Christian kind of rules, regulations, laws, things like that, when they're told about these things, if we come at them like they're going to hell for it, guess what? I'm probably not listening to you. I'm probably not gonna take what you're saying because you're coming at me with hate. You're coming at me saying, hey, you're different and I don't like it. And you should just go ahead and be vanquished for it. No. That's not what it was meant for, okay? Jesus never said, make sure to shove these laws down people's throats until they either agree or go away. That's not what he said, right? They're there to protect us, okay? What Jesus does, what the Bible does, is it takes lines in the sand and it tells you what those lines are. And you're completely free to ignore every single line of sand that you see, okay? You can see this, you can go, hey, I know this is bad. Somebody told me I'd go to hell if I did this, so I know this is bad, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And you are free to do that. What you're not free from are the consequences of what just happened, okay? So and what's so awesome is that Christians aren't able to stop you from doing this either. Like Christians can tell you all day, like, you can't do this. And they're like, yes, I can. They can do it, okay? But when we start looking at these lines in the sand as what they're intended to do, they're intended to protect us, to protect our joy, okay? What God says is, hey, you can do this. You're free to do this. But if you will not do this, I can guarantee you that your inner peace will stay. I can guarantee you that your joy won't have to be fought for as much, okay? If you can stop doing this line right in front, if you cannot step over it, I can tell you the generational curse of your family will stop with you, okay? Because everyone else in your family just stepped right over it and kept walking, right? But what he's saying is, hey, if you can just take this line and take it seriously, I can help you. I can help you get past this without having to do this. I can. It's almost like the cliche sheltered Christian. It's more of an educated Christian. It's more of a person that realizes the dangers of what happens when we cross that line, okay? So when we talk about a brother or sister, it's super important that we define who that is, because not everyone is your brother or sister, okay? Not just your physical brother or sisters, but like not everyone on your Facebook feed or your Twitter list, oh, I sounded so old, on your Instagram followers, not all of them are your brothers and sisters, okay? Not everyone is close enough with you that you have earned that trust, that you have theirs, and They have yours for you to be able to talk about this. So if a sin is really just burning you about somebody, you don't have Jesus' permission to go attack them for it. You have his permission to go love them through it. That's what you have. And that takes time, and that takes effort, and that takes strength. And gosh, it's just so much easier though. This takes maybe weeks and months and years. I can take care of this in a 4-minute comment. It's not the same. It's not what we're called to do. It's not the display that he asked us for. Because here's why you have to earn that trust. They don't care what you know until they know that you care. If you've heard it before, it's because it's true. I know a lot of experts. Oh, I'm on Facebook. I know a lot of experts. A lot of people will tell me what to do I can fix, what I can do better, how I can do this. I don't care because I don't know that they care about me. I don't know. I don't know because the people that I surround myself with that I do trust about that, they know I care about them. And I know they care about me. I know that when they point out a sin to me, my sister's one of these people. We've earned that trust. Now, back in the day, when we were younger, it was siblings. I mean, we cut each other's throats. I mean, that's just siblings. I mean, you do that, right? But if my sister comes up to me and says, hey, the way you handled that back there wasn't your best. It's not the vibe. I wouldn't do that. Like, you're better than that. You can do better. You can show more grace than that. I've given her this. She's shown me this. I've shown her this. We know, we trust. We say, hey, you can call me out. Okay? That's an established thing that you have to earn because otherwise they don't know if you care. This is the same thing that I have to have with my students. So what I operate as a college and career counselor at a high school. So I get to be in the high school. I help to do anything after high school, whether it be a certificate, diploma, college education, whatever, okay? But I don't get to sit a student down in front of me and just say, hey, don't really care who you are. Here's the thing. Here's what you need to know. Go through the cogs of the machine. Please don't say anything. Please don't tell me what you want to be. You can't be that. You're not smart enough. You can't do this. You can't blah, blah, blah. They're not going to listen to me one bit because I haven't earned it. I have to show them that I care. I start with that. I start with, hey, I want you to know, no matter what happens, I've got your back. If you dropped out right now and came back to me 2 years later, which has happened, and they say, Miss Jesse, you're right, I really should have done this. Hey, that's okay. I'm not gonna throw I told you so at you because you've lived now. Like you know, what can I do to help you right now, okay? If I don't establish this though, they're never coming back to me. They're never starting over. They're never having a journey because here's the thing. I've got to show them this because they may not have this at home. They may never experience this in their life. They may come home with a 2.5 GPA on their report card, and instead of somebody saying, hey, you're doing fantastic, you're doing the best that you can because you could have dropped out at any point and had a 0.0 GPA, you may not even succeed in this. Instead of someone telling them that, no, at home they're getting, why are you so stupid? Why can't you do better? Why can't you be smarter? They offer tutoring. It hurt for me to say stupid out loud, that loud, but that I had to say it because it happens. That's what they're getting. That's what they're getting at home. They may not get the encouragement to say, hey, you're capable of more than what you've got at home. You have the potential. You can go further. You don't have to make those decisions they did. That's theirs. That's not yours. Because at home, what they're getting is, I didn't go to college and neither will you. You're not smarter than me. You're not better than me. You're going to be just like I am, just like me, a failure. That's what you're going to be. So quit trying to go to these meetings. Quit trying to find a way to pay for college. You're not going. I can't help kids talk about after high school until I help them survive high school. Okay, sometimes that's where we've got to start. It's just getting through that high school. And it's the same thing as Christians. Okay, it's the very same thing. I don't get to tell other Christians when they talk about their struggles, I don't get to say, I only care about you if you do this the right way. I don't get to say, I only care about you if you're perfect right now. I don't get to say, I only care about you if you do this Jesus' way and you're just living in earthly sin. I don't care. No. Jesus told me I got to stop after the words, I care. That's what he said. He said, I got to love one another. That's it. That's all I get to do. I get to love them. I get to earn their trust. I get to talk to them. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And if it's not something you want to do, then don't do it. Don't take this route. Leave Jesus out of it if you're not gonna do it the right way. If you're not gonna love people where they are, if you're not gonna stop with just I care, don't push them further down. They didn't need that. They could have got that anywhere. They didn't need your help to do that. So what's the end goal of what we're doing? Because the end goal for me is just eloquently so told to me. They were like, if we will be known by the love that we share because we've known the true love of the Savior. Okay? When we give God glory, when we speak the truth, when we show love, when we show grace, when we show just peace in the midst of all this chaos, that's this. So what's our end goal as Christians? We're told not to just accept this gift of unconditional love and grace and then tell no one about it. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to just accept Jesus and then die. There's a whole life that we hope to live between accepting Jesus and death. There's a lot of stuff that we can do, right? Mark 12, it says, teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And I may be just a little bit off from what the verse says because I think I pulled it from Matthew. It says, Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Some say the second is equal to it. Some say the second is just like it. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. We make it super simple for you, super simple for us. Love your God with all your heart and your mind and your soul. And the second is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And we get the first one right because he's not here in front of us. He's not making bad decisions in front of us. We get this one right. It's this one that we've got to put together, okay? And where do these two things cross? What's the best way to do both of these? To tell people where you get it. If you've got joy inside your heart, if you've got something that you know will sustain you through something terrible, if you're like, hey, I know it's gonna be okay. I know the end of the story, so I just get to write middle chapters with the pen that God gave me. It's our job as a beggar to tell other beggars where to get bread. That's our job. That's what we can do. We can show people where to get the grace that we got before we ever were humbled, before we could ever deserve it, because we can't earn it. That's the end goal for us. And this is a gift. Before we ever deserved it, we could never do it. God's unconditional grace is given to us undeservedly and without hesitance. There's never a second thought from him, okay? James says faith by itself without works is dead. That's why our words are not the testimony. Our actions are. If you'll stand with me, we'll get closing. We'll get this rolling. If you'll stand with me, we're gonna praise again. We're gonna go into just a moment. If you'll bow your heads, if you'll close your eyes, do the whole cliche thing. If you'll just bear with me, because this is important to me. This is something I haven't done before. This is something we're gonna do together. Because maybe today you just need to forgive somebody. Maybe in your mind right now, you're just like, all I need to do, all that he's calling me to do right now is to just stop harboring all of this hate towards someone or to a whole group because of what someone's done. And you don't have to go to them today and tell them that you forgive them for them to be forgiven, okay? Still protect yourself. I'm not telling you to go back into a toxic situation and say, hey, like, I forgive you for hurting me. No, let's love them from afar too. Let's pagan and tax collector that and say, hey, like, I love you, I forgive you from afar. That's what's happening, okay? That's maybe what I need. That maybe what you need today is just to pray about that. But also maybe you didn't realize when you came in today that you were like, oh, I didn't realize that Jesus loved me right now. That he loved me before I changed anything. Like I've heard of altar calls before. I've heard people say, you can accept this gift today, but I thought I need to go home and fix this first. Like, ooh, he's not gonna take me like that. I've been told before I'll go to hell for that, so I haven't fixed it, so I can't accept God's grace because I haven't fixed what they told me I go to hell for. Listen, that was a red lightsaber, okay? That's not what's happening, okay? So with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, let's pray this. And if you want to pray something like what I'm praying, that's great. If you want to pray your own prayer, you do that too, okay? This is your moment.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into the message today. Hope it was meaningful to you. And if it was, be sure to subscribe to Overflow Church's YouTube page. And if you want to give into the move of God happening here at Overflow, you can do that through our website or through our app. Hope you guys have an incredible